I love how he is. I loved his early work, and you can definitely tell that Kinds of Kindness was shot on a super cheap budget.
It's just filmed in like hotels and office buildings and stuff like that. Poor Things more kind of like, woohoo, it's like more fantastical. You could tell they put a lot of money and time in it. And Kinds of Kindness just feels like we're going to shoot them in just normal places that already exist. And that's fine. It's just,
I think when they were making Poor Things, I don't think they expected Poor Things to be as successful as it was. And I'm not sure exactly why Poor Things has such a,
Emma Stone is famous.
maybe it's Emma Stone, maybe it's Willem Dafoe, maybe it's maybe it's just some weird combination that was just out at the right time. But for some reason, Poor Things, it's by far his highest grossing film.
Won a lot of awards. Again, I think the central Emma Stone performance, she's a very beloved person and her performance in it is very brave or things like that. So I think that kind of aids to the mythology of the movie and its success. For me, it's fine. And Kinds of Kindness, it's okay. I don't know if I liked it. I think I kind of liked it. But for me, I saw Dogtooth. I think that was the first Lanthimos movie I ever saw. And that was a good example of a movie that I saw early on that really changed how I looked at movies because the movie has crazy moments and ideas in it, like about incest and stuff like that, and nudity and sex. And the way the actors act in that movie is also very weird, kind of like a very early foreign film that I watched where it kind of like changed my brain. But I went back and I watched Dogtooth and I watched Lobster and I watched Killing of a Sacred Deer. I feel like I probably wouldn't like them as much. And another thing too is that I don't really have a strong compulsion to rewatch his movies as much as other great filmmakers that I like Brian De Palma, Michael Mann, the Coen brothers, David Lynch. I wish I could watch these movies all the time. They're so good and pleasurable and beautiful. Lanthimos, for some reason, I just don't really feel like rewatching his movies. The same with Kinds of Kindness. When I'm in the movie, I'm feeling good, I'm laughing, I'm having fun. But ultimately, by the time the movie ends, you're just kind of like left feeling a little empty.
I used to be a big Yorgos fan. When I saw Alps, when I saw Dogtooth, I felt like, oh, I get it now. They were very early in my film watching career, my filmmaking career. I was very inspired by it. But I have to admit that I legitimately have this fear of rewatching his films. I haven't rewatched any of his films because I'm afraid I'm not gonna love them because I'm like, were they really that
Yeah,
good?
I don't even
Or
want to.
was I just in a place that time that worked? And I don't have any compulsion to rewatch them. Like it's not like, oh, I really want to go see Dogtooth again, or I really want to watch even Killing of the Sacred Deer, which I think is,
I feel the same way about Charlie Kaufman movies.
yeah.
I kind of don't want to rewatch them.
And so these last couple of Yorgos films, even with Poor Things, like I know everyone loved it, and I thought there's some really cool things about it, and it looks really cool,
Yeah, it's
but
cool.
I don't know. I came out of the movie like I felt very empty.
Which, by the way, I will say with the cast and the actors in this in the Kinds of Kindness, you cannot lob the argument that these people were not on board the entire time. Everybody in the movie is great. Everybody commits fully. I have nothing bad to say about any of the people.
What's strange is like I think this film's very empty, and yet you kind of have an all-star cast here. I mean, you got Willem Dafoe, Jesse Plemons.
Jesse Plemons is a great actor. He's great in the first and second story. He was fantastic. I think he's one of the best actors. He does a great deadpan performance that I really love.
His acting style reminds me a lot of Philip Seymour Hoffman.
He's a little schlubby too, kind of like Philip Seymour Hoffman.
So it has all the things to be great. And yeah, it's definitely something they shot pretty quickly. They shot pretty cheap.
It's just clear that coming off from Poor Things, right? It's just,
Yeah, it's
it's
definitely like
different.
something just like easy, fun to shoot. I was talking to Steven about this. I'm pretty sure they shot this film while they were editing.
He's got another one coming out in a year. Did you know
That is
that?
fucking crazy, man.
For some reason, he's just suddenly like very prolific. I'll watch it. I mean, like I'll watch that movie next year. I don't even care that I didn't like this movie all that much. And that's the thing about Kinds of Kindness and Poor Things, I guess, to an extent, but Kinds of Kindness especially. And I'll give it props because even if I didn't like it all that much, it's a bit of a troll movie. It played pretty widely. And it's definitely a movie that I get a satisfaction in knowing that people went to go see it, having no idea what it was about, and they're completely perplexed by it because it has so many weird, out of nowhere moments, which is, very Lanthimos. But if you look at the cast listing, Emma Stone, William Dafoe, Jesse Plemons, great actors, people love. And I'm sure with Poor Things, people went and saw that movie and they were completely just, what the fuck is this shit? And same thing with Kinds of Kindness. When I saw the movie, there were people after the movie that were just like, what the fuck? There were a lot of uncomfortable laughing, and there were even some exclamations at one point or another. And that is very fun. Outside of that experience, my own interior experience of watching the movie, just kind of like, it's fine.
And here's my problem with this film in particular. And maybe we're starting to see a trend of this as he makes more and more films. I don't know if it's I've just become desensitized and so his stuff doesn't hit as hard? Or is it that his stuff is more sanitized?
You just seen more movies than the average person. Most people watch 10 movies in a year, while you and I have just really hammered in and watched a lot of different movies from all over the world. But most people, they don't really think of movies like that. To us, it's kind of light, fun. But to others, it's like, whoa, it's fucked up. It's crazy. Were they on drugs when they made this? So, yeah.
I think I still like the first one the best.
I actually was quite entertained throughout the almost 3 hour runtime. All three stories were pretty consistent in tone and quality, and it kept me guessing. The second story is kind of like a body snatcher thing, which I thought was very interesting. But the first story also kind of has interesting because you're just like, what's going on with this relationship between William Dafoe and Jesse Plemons? It's very weird. And the third one too was interesting because the movie is gearing up for like Emma Stone and Margaret Qualley to like meet. So I don't know if there's one I prefer more than the other.
I think the premises are big enough. Each one could be a feature length film in and of itself. I don't know if I want to spend another 2 hours sitting watching Kinds of Kindness, but I almost wish we had more time in those worlds because I do feel the pacing is maybe a little awkward. And I think he's kind of playing on this because these are the same actors, they're playing these different roles. It took me a long time to get out of that mode of Willem Dafoe as kind of this evil destructive guy because in the second one he's this happy loving dad, and I wonder if that's maybe a little purposeful, right? That first story imprints like these ideas of who these people are, and even though it's a different story, you're kind of left with the remnants of it.
Margaret Qualley plays two characters technically in the third story. She
Which
technically
is
plays four
crazy.
characters.
So I found this with all the stories, which is there's the original premise, and then about halfway through that film, they invert the premise. Like at the beginning of the second piece, it's about like a guy who's looking for his wife, and then about halfway through the piece, you invert it to become like a body snatcher sort of thing.
The second one is also particularly interesting because it's got cop domestic violence kind of thing too. It's good, but it feels by the numbers.
Even the surprises, I don't know. I just felt like, oh yeah. But I think the reason it's enjoyable to watch in a theater is because watching with other people is really fun. There's that moment where Jesse Plemons is like, oh, I want to watch the video.
Yeah, yeah, the part is so funny.
The moment where he says, I think that was awkward, I was like, oh,
Oh, it's like a sex tape. Yeah.
I've seen too many movies. I've broken myself.
Our brains are broken. We're freaks. Yeah. It's a fucking Lanthimos movie. What else? Of course, is it going to be about sex?
I mean, it's still funny.
Dogtooth begins with like a weird sex scene. I'll never forget the scene where the parents hire like a prostitute to fuck their son.
I enjoy talking about the film, and like there's all these moments that I really like, but then by the end of it, walking out of the film, I was just like,
You can pretty much like go about your day normally. I appreciate its existence as kind of like a trollish object,
absolutely.
but I think Lanthimos as a filmmaker, he has outlived his usefulness. I still want to go see his movies because they're fun in the moment, but he's outlived his usefulness for me.
I think I agree with you. I will continue to go see his films, probably in perpetuity, because if nothing else, he is one of those filmmakers that is out there making the work that he wants to make, and it's great to see those people out here. People are giving him money to make shit, and he's making what he likes to make. So
And it could be surprising, you never know.
yeah, I mean, his next piece could just be something entirely different, entirely big. So hopefully.